Hey everybody, how you doing today? I am in day one of my self-quarantine. Just taking my little guy, my little dude, out for a walk in the graveyard, right? As isolated as it gets out here in the graveyard. What's banging around my head today? Obviously the coronavirus and its unfolding. I think what I really want to talk about today, I'm going to label this one the child men of the apocalypse. Because what's interesting about what's happening with the coronavirus as it unfolds is seeing these sort of rapacious, rugged, bootstrapping, individualist, capitalist types starting to come around to the fact that, oh no, socialism, we need socialism. It's fascinating to see how quickly capitalism is being abandoned, even by its most virulent supporters. And this is because capitalism and the ideology of individualism is the ideology of a child. It's a childish ideology that is obviously false and falls apart under even the most basic of scrutiny. The coronavirus is so scary for capitalists is because previously capitalism could, as capitalism abandons people and as it cuts them loose, it only abandons the workers, right? It only abandons and harms the poor. Here's a good boy, buddy. Come on. Come on. Good boy. Come on. And so we don't have to deal with that on a societal level because the only people who matter are the children who are running the place. Let's be extremely specific with this and name names. Doug Ford is a child. He was raised a millionaire, never had to grow up. He's a drug dealer, a bully, liked to punish people for his own sort of self-aggrandizement, his own sadistic kind of position. You just listen to him talk for 30 seconds and you realize that he's just a child that never grew up. I don't think he ever got past 5. Certainly never learned the value of community, never learned the value of hard work, certainly. I can't imagine a lazier person, just sits around all day. Let me just look at him. And his ideology is exactly that of a child. All for me, none for you. He never was taught how to share. He was never taught the value of a friendship or a partnership, any of those things. To him, people exist simply for his amusement, the way a child plays with toys, right? And so now he's in a position where his childish behavior is unacceptable. Not only unacceptable, but dangerous and deadly. And he knows this. This is why he backs off of his most rapacious cuts to healthcare. Previously, he could just shrug and say, well, these people should bootstrap themselves, they should work harder, they'll just need to learn how to toughen up, while shoveling money into the coffers of his billionaire donors. Because the Conservative Party in general is just children, right? They never had to grow up. They never had to learn anything. They just followed the money because the money was the only thing that was giving them the rewards that they actually never got in their youth, clearly. These people never learned how to care for anyone. They never learned how to take care of anybody. They abandon even the most basic of conservative principles, right? This is the thing, that conservatism is not about abandoning people. It's not about leaving people behind. Even the most hard-nosed arch conservative has this principle, this basic prevailing principle of stewardship, that conservatism is about accepting the hierarchy, that there is a hierarchy, that the hierarchy is natural, and that everyone should learn their place in the hierarchy and exist within it. But for this hierarchy to be maintained, the people who have power within the hierarchy should act as stewards and be aware of their position. The Ford conservatives have no such thoughts. It's because, and it's as the days unfold and as socialism carries the day, because that's what's going to happen, capitalism will be abandoned because it has to be abandoned for survival reasons. As capitalism is abandoned and socialism begins to take up the torch and carry the day, it will be revealed very clearly that these people have no ideology, right? Someone like Doug Ford, he doesn't have an ideology. He just he just does what's convenient for himself, and he just parrots the ideologues around him. He doesn't believe in anything. He has no moral compass. And the same can be said of Donald Trump, that as we move forward and as socialist policies begin to be enacted, and as the policies that socialists have been calling for decades begin to be enacted, they will be enacted with a kind of delusional detachment. There will be no self-awareness by these people who pass this legislation that what they are passing is in effect socialism. They will go on badgering socialism. They will go on all of these things because to them these words mean nothing, right? To people like Doug Ford, to people like Donald Trump, these words are meaningless outside of rah-rah team building, right? Because if you're a child and you haven't actually thought about anything and you don't actually know anything, then all you care about is your team, right? We're the capitalists. We wear the capitalist jerseys. You can tell because we have such big shoulder pads. The capitalist uniform is essentially this shoulder pad heavy suit, right? You're supposed to take someone very seriously if they're wearing this idiotic costume designed to make them look larger and more imposing, when in reality it's just foam. Like, they're as hollow as their suit is. It's an unimpressive display of masculinity, and it's got this complete pointless purpose outside of the desire to naturally intimidate. You're supposed to quote unquote look good while wearing a suit, but in reality you just look like an idiot with foam pads on your shoulders. Might as well just put a helmet on their head, get them into the field, go catch a football. And the Liberals are not immune to this. Justin Trudeau is a different kind of child. I think he's less selfish. He was raised with sort of a softer touch, certainly. I actually rather like Justin Trudeau as a person. As a leader, I picture a small 5-year-old in a very large chair being slid a paper and told to sign it. And that's more or less his position and his role in all of this. He's permitted in the room, but he doesn't make any decisions, and he just does what he's told. And what's beginning to happen is that as desperately needed policies are being enacted, as socialism is beginning to be shown as the proper way to move forward, as socialism is being seen as desperately necessary, people like Justin Trudeau are going to stand up and happily announce, oh, look at these wonderful things that we have done. Look at how wonderful it is that we are enacting these wonderful things that we've withheld from the public for decades and decades and decades, could have passed overnight, but chose not to. And like a child, he's going to bob up and down in front of us, giddily staring up at us, saying, shouldn't you reward me? Look how good I did. I did so good. But for the adults in the room, for the people who have actually worked in their life, for the people who have actually shed blood and tears and had effort and have expended effort and have sacrificed in their society, these people are going to say, yep, thanks for doing that thing that we were telling you to do for 40 years. Finally, shame it took a life or death crisis for you to actually get off your ass and enact something. And the children who are running the place, it's been interesting watching them grow up. The child men of the apocalypse, who a week ago would tell you, oh, we have to abandon our most vulnerable people. We have to abandon our most vulnerable people. We have to sacrifice everything to this capitalist system, the owner class. We have to cut all benefits. We have to cut all services. We have to cut, and shovel all that money towards a group of people who will throw it into holes, and the money will disappear and no one will know what happened to it. It will not be invested. These people are now suddenly having to say, well, maybe we do need to think about, our collective well-being. I guess maybe we do have to actually think about how we interact with one another. Maybe, I guess maybe there are systems that sort of supersede the man-made systems. I guess. Right now, it's the amount of feet dragging that's happening. It's exactly the way a child acts when you tell them to clean up their room, or when you tell them to get in the vehicle to go to school, or when you tell them to do something that they don't want to do but they have to do. The feet dragging, the just, steadily marching towards what is inevitable and what everyone knows needs to happen. And as we're watching these feet draggers steadily march towards enacting policies that will save lives, that will help the populace, that should have been in place in the first place, we all stand here and kind of scratch our heads wondering, why are we letting children run this place? That's my big confusion about this, is that these child men are the ones that have seized power, and it is because we have allowed a capitalist society to come into place, and capitalism rewards and breeds child men. It rewards these insipid, unaware, delusional, sociopathic losers who literally do not have an idea in their head outside of more for myself, less for everyone else, which is the ideology of a child, if it can be even called an ideology at all. And so we move forward, and day by day, more businesses will close because that's what they should be doing. That's the right thing to do. I just saw that the Hudson's Bay Company finally decided to close its own doors, pay its workers, which is the right thing to do, because that's another conversation, but it's an interesting bind for a lot of these companies to be in. And it indicates something very real, which is that actually it works with this, because the businesses don't want to close. Mid-sized to large businesses do not want to close. I've seen lots of smaller businesses decide to close. Because if you're a small business, the owner actually works in the establishment, and so you're more aware of what's going on in your community and your society, and you care more about what's going on in your society. If you live like, you know, up on the top of a hill in Ottawa somewhere, and all your properties are in Toronto, like, you don't care, keep them open. But what it does indicate is that these business owners, the shareholder class especially, they don't trust the government either, right? If the shareholder class trusted the government and trusted that the government would actually make the right choices on behalf of the populace, they would go, okay, there's a pandemic, it's been declared a pandemic, the Premier's office has declared it a state of emergency, we have to close. And we should do so voluntarily, and we should pay our people. And yeah, there's a financial aspect to it, but you know what? I think that our community-minded political leaders will do what's right by us and will take care of us. So we're gonna do what's right in the populace. That's what any rational adult would say. That's the adult position. If you're a child, or if you believe you are being led by children, then there's a significant level of doubt. Will the children actually reward you for shutting your doors and telling your people to go home? Will the children say, oh, hey, you lost a whole lot of money during that period of time because you had to pay your workers and all that? Well, we got you covered, you know? Will the children actually say that? We don't know, because children act from their own sort of position. They don't care about the people around them, not really. And we forgive them for that because they're simply bad at being here. They're just bad adults, you know. They're not good at what they do or who they are. And we forgive them because they're so new. They don't really know anything. And if you don't teach them anything, they're going to stay that way, which is how you explain people like Donald Trump and Doug Ford. Right? They don't know anything, and they're not interested in knowing anything, because as you age, you kind of entrench into your belief systems, and you entrench into what it is you are, and it takes massive acts such as the unleashing of a virus on the populace for people to have a changing perspective once they get out of their youth and their childhood and their childish perspective is maintained. So moving forward, what I am looking for in our politicians, I am interested to see how they grow up. I'm interested to see how Justin Trudeau begins to see that the corporate advisors and the corporate leadership and the corporate people who are obviously writing his script for him are not to be trusted. They never were. They are interested in money for themselves, the way children are. And I'm interested to see if there's any awareness or growth or any kind of attempt even by Doug Ford to become in any way a rational adult. His childish behavior is completely overt and completely obvious, and we'll see how that goes. As socialism begins to carry the day, and as Doug Ford is seen to be more and more churlish and ridiculous, and we'll see if the populace begins to understand that it needs to stop electing children, that when you elect someone into a position of authority and power, you need adults. You need someone who's going to make an adult decision and who's going to act like an adult, instead of the petulant children that we have currently in office. All right, I think that's the end of me. I hope you guys are doing well out there. I hope you're making good decisions for yourself and for the people around you. I hope you're self-isolating. I know many of you are probably in a difficult position because your workplaces are not closing and they're not making the right decision. I hope that you see through it, and I hope that our society gets its act together, grows up, and does right by you soon. I love you all. Have fun out there.